Hello, everybody. This is Jules, and before we begin, I would like to say a few things regarding this wonderful podcast. This is a project that I have been thinking about since 2019, and it's only now that I have managed to get it going. So I do appreciate that you're taking the time to give it a listen. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Creative Caravan that has supported me in the production of this podcast. Also, a very big thanks to each of my guests who allowed themselves to trust me with their stories and helped me in creating a space where people can feel like they can relate to one another, learn from one another, and find a sense of belonging. Enjoy! Welcome to So This Is Love, a podcast about love, the loss of love, heartbreak, and the meeting of self. We share stories on how the relationships we once had teach us about who we are and define who we become. And maybe through these stories, we can answer that age-old question. Is it better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all? So, this is love. And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of So This Is Love. Today, I am joined by a very special guest who actually reached out to me via Instagram DM on So This Is Love. And we shared we had a short exchange about this particular relationship that she wanted to come and talk about. And I was very excited to have her on board. I'm very happy that she's here. And I'm also grateful that she's willing to share this very vulnerable part of her life. And the kind of relationship that we're going to talk about today is one of those that I feel like most people are a bit scared to even speak about, but these things happen. Over and over again in different circles of friends. Her name is Shelly, not her real name. And she's going to be telling us about a relationship that she had with an individual named Curtis. A he. I might have to clarify that because some people might think it's Jimmy Lee Curtis. I don't know. And this was a relationship that was very defining for her. I would say in her late 20s. That she says didn't even last that long. It wasn't a relationship that was more than a year. It wasn't a relationship that lasted more than a year, but it was a very defining relationship in her life. Welcome, Shelly, to So This Is Love.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
How are you feeling about being on So This Is Love today?
I'm open, vulnerable, and emotional. And yeah, I'm ready to rip off the Band-Aid. Yeah, and I want someone else to feel encouraged by my story. Yeah, because I'm a sucker for love.
So am I. That's why we're doing this podcast.
I know.
For those who don't know, because I've been having a few conversations with people in my DM. The purpose of this podcast, the reason right now, especially for this first leg of this podcast, why I focus on relationships that have broken down, is there's a reason for that. Because I've had people who've come and said, "Oh, I'd love to share my story about me and my husband. Mm-hmm. We're still together." And I say, "No, the premise or the prerequisite is that there has to be a relationship that broke down, but there also has to be a moment of like coming to full circle, where you're not coming to vent and say this person did this to me, or you're not coming to say, yeah, I did this, but I don't care. No, it's like you're taking responsibility for how you contributed to a breakdown of relationship and the lessons from that. Okay, and I think later on in So This Is Love, I might also include relationships that have nothing to do with romance. So relationships, mother-daughter, friends, that have broken down, but now there is a healing that has happened. So Shelly, take us to the beginning. How did you and Curtis meet?
Yes. So Curtis and I met in the club, and it wasn't the typical day. It was a weekday. So a friend of mine, she's a hostess. So she invited me and she was like, hey, come sing. I know you like having a good time. And I was like, okay, there's nothing I'm doing. Why not? So I walk into the club. I noticed Curtis and his cousin seated where I normally sit. So I was like, But then again, I had to choose another place. So I sat down and I was given like a chance to sing 3 songs. So when I sang the first song, they were like, hey, Havana, these guys are going home. We can't be competing with this, And I was like, nah, it's not that serious. So I sang the second song, and then after that, they were like, no, just come and sit with us, come and join us. And I was like, okay, cool. Extroverted me, social butterfly me, who am I, you know? So as we sat there, as we sang, they were like, hey, no, boy, you're singing really well, you know? And I was like, oh, it's nothing. It's like breathing to me, you know? So they're like, okay. Then we talked, Curtis and I. Now, Curtis exchanged his seats with a cousin, and he came and sat with me. And we talked and talked and talked, and for about an hour, it was just Curtis and I. And I was like, damn.
Don't we all just love the beginning?
Yeah. And then, you know, for me, I was like, I wasn't looking for you. In my heart, I was just telling myself, like, I'm not looking for this right now, but it feels so good. It feels so calm. So why not, you know? And here's the funny thing. I left and he didn't get my number. But I told him, if you really want to see me again, you're going to show up next week. And best to his word or his promise, he showed up the following week, and I also showed up. But this time I cleaned up a bit, you know. I looked more lady-like. Before I just went there looking like I was homeless, you know. So, yeah, and we talked some more, and this time we actually had some drinks and we had dinner. Same venue, but we really didn't focus on what was going on around us. We just wanted to sit down and we talked and we talked. Oh, my gosh, and we talked. And I remember looking at this man and thinking, wow. Oh my gosh. And I was just like, it's not real, you know? And I don't know. The song that comes to mind right now is like this song that goes, so this is love.
Yeah.
So then after that night I gave him my number. So, and then I remember telling him when we were talking that now on our second date, let me call it that, I was like, dude, I can't really get too involved right now because I'm healing from something. And he was like, okay, as long as I get to spend time with you, me, Nicole, I'm okay. So I was like, okay, cool, let's flow. Jules, I didn't know when I fell in love. And that's what I had always wanted. I'd always wanted a seamless relationship in that sense. But the more I spoke to him, the more I realized that I was very damaged. The more he loved on me, the more I realized there's a lot that I used to be afraid of. And I didn't voice those fears. I didn't voice my concerns. So in the process of flowing, I had to join school. So I remember talking to him about it, and I was like, babe, I need to join school. And he was like, how much is it? And I was like, what? I wasn't here for the money, but since you're offering, thank you. And I told him, this is what I need, and this is exactly what I need. And he was like, cool. And he transferred the money to me, and I paid school fees. And I felt very taken care of in that sense, in a sense where I didn't need it, but he did it, you know. And as a woman with a very strong personality, I just felt like, wow, kumbe, I can allow myself to be loved in this sense, you know. And I didn't take it, I didn't feel like a gold digger, and I loved it. And I loved that he didn't make me feel like, I've paid your school fees, now you owe me. He didn't do that. And I remember every Monday, because I used to go for my classes on Tuesday, we'll meet at Java Westland Square. He'll come from work at 2 p.m. and he'll be like, let me help you with your assignments. Please note, Curtis is a Muslim, and I was in Bible school. And yes. And he helped me with my assignments. Every time I'll see him, like I knew Monday was my day with my person. And that gave me so much joy. And even it gave me more to look forward to besides going for work, you know, and even interacting with people. And I remember at some point, the caretaker where I used to live was like, hey, msichana mpaka siku hizi unaonekana uko na furaha, you know. And I'm like, ni kupendwa, you know. Being loved feels nice. So I continued, and we started hanging out every day. So we'll meet on Monday for my assignments. On Tuesday, we'll meet after class, go for karaoke. On Wednesday, we'll meet for anything, just as long as we get to see each other. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It became like I have to talk to Curtis before I meet Jules. I need to find out what time Curtis wants us to meet so that everything else can revolve around that. And for me, it was, I'm in love. And I haven't felt this kind of love before. So I am doing whatever I can to hold on to this love that I'm feeling right now. And I don't, there's nothing wrong with what I'm feeling, but I also didn't want anyone else to come in between us. And Curtis is the first relationship I could say that I had openly. I introduced him to my friends. Not my family, we didn't get to that point, but I introduced him to my friends, and I didn't have a problem leaving him with my friends because I knew it's cool. Apart from the lady friends, though, that one I had to be careful. And I saw how when we were around ladies, I saw how protective I became, and I was like, okay, what's this girl? What's going on? You know? But see, we're in love, and I met his family, a part of it, the family that he let me meet, and they were nice people. But there's a story behind that, and but I never paid attention to that because it was, again, a love I'd never felt before. And as we continued, things started falling off and started falling out of place. And I held on again. I kept holding on because I knew this is also how love is. Because of things I had been through in my childhood, I accepted the second-hand love that started coming along. It started feeling different. It started feeling there is something that was amiss. We're still meeting, but there's no love. There's something, it started feeling like I'm not talking to my best friend anymore. It started feeling like now I'm talking to my friend. Then I found out that he was married. And I was like, okay.
How did you find out he was married?
He wore his ring one day. Yes. Or rather, he forgot to remove his ring.
Can you give me the context of that day? What was happening?
That day, what had
How did you respond?
That day, I remember we met at the club, because that's how we used to hang out at the club. Everywhere we would go, it was at a club. I didn't know. And then, because also my career at that point was really in club entertainment. So he'll come and support me when I was working if you're not supporting one of his friends. So that day I saw him with a ring and I was like, hey, babe, your ring looks nice. As in, where? What? You know, like, what are these accessories you're wearing, you know? And I was like, I've never seen you in this ring before. Like, like, and how come you only have on this finger, you know, why this particular finger? I seemed so dumb, Jules. And he was like, yeah, I didn't tell you I'm married. But because I'm Muslim, I didn't see the need to let you know, because us guys are allowed to marry more than one wife. So I sat down and I was like, I'm in love, right? Shelly, you're in love, right? Like, you're in love. So, yeah, let's continue. Once that could happen. And we started having a conversation about getting married. And I started talking to my relatives about it. And I remember my aunt was like, are you ready? Are you sure? Are you certain? And I asked her, how did you know you wanted to marry your uncle? Like, I married my friend. I'm like, even me, I'm marrying my friend. Little did I know I was afraid of being alone. I didn't want to not feel loved again. And that's when I realized I wasn't okay. But then I was like, his love, he's hotspotting, like this second-hand love is supporting the two of us and his family. So, I mean, he has enough to support my brokenness. You get. But Jules, now he's the twist of all this. Every time I'll go back to my house, because he rarely ever came to see me. I really protected my space. Every time I'll go back home, I'll think about, Curtis loves me, but what is his love doing for me? Even this love that he has offered me, what is it doing for me as an individual? And I realized that how he loved me taught me how to love myself. I'll find myself crying, not because he's done anything wrong, but because he's done something right. Before all hell broke loose. And those are the moments that made me hold on. I couldn't imagine that I'll ever find another love. I knew things were wrong when I started not wanting to reply to his text messages, because, Jules, I used to talk to this man until 5 a.m. in the morning. I used to know that he's my person, so we're talking until 5 a.m. It didn't, so you see that like there were no signs of our family, you get, because if you're dating a married man, you would expect that after Sunday, after 10 p.m., don't reach out. Don't call me, I'll call you. Don't text me, it's for Curtis to reach out first. But Curtis didn't do that. Curtis spoke to me all the time. I'll even call him on my way to hospital, and he's like, yeah, I'm on my way. So I had my own person. And one day, I just felt like, no, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And those gut feelings that we're told women tend to have, like a sixth sense. My sixth sense was like, no. So one day I showed up to the club without his knowledge. And I saw him with my friend. And they were being too friendly. And I was like, but that's how he is. It's his love language. So let me just go say hi and see how they respond. So they saw me and the chick was like, what? Like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to, like, the look she gave me, it's like she had been informed. She's not coming, like, Shelly's not coming around tonight. Yeah. And then I found out that he had also been sending this lady money. When she has a problem, she used to go to him. So I went to her and I was like, yo, chick, like, he's my man. Why are you going to him without my knowledge? I don't have a problem. It's his money. He can give it to you. He can spend his time with you. It's his. But why is this happening behind my back? Him and I didn't have sex in our relationship. We actually had sex after we broke up. Because I didn't want it to seem like I was using the sex to keep him. And I wanted to experience this relationship without the physical connection, the physical whatever. So, and she was like, yeah, we've actually had sex.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow. My heart sank. I went home. I drank myself silly and blacked out. I did that for 3 days. And that's when I was like, hey, I need to see you. I need to have a word with you. And we met at our Java. And that day, my hands are trembling. It's anger, it's pain, it's betrayal. And I just asked him, like, what did I do for you to do what you did to me? If it's sex, you should have asked me. I wasn't giving you the 90-day rule or anything. I wanted it to be seamless. Man. And he was like, I have the money. So what's going on between you and I is because you have money or because, I don't know, what? Yo, man, Jules. And to a point, I realized that my life used to revolve around Curtis in the toxic way, not the nice kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized a few more things about myself. And I told him I needed some time out. And I asked him, just give me a week. I need to get my shit together. And that whole week, I remember, Jules, I was drunk. I can't believe that you sold me such a fantasy. But did I really deserve to be treated the way you've treated me? I have done nothing but almost idolize you and worship the ground you walk on. Why would you do this to me? It didn't add up. That math was not mathing.
Yeah. And so at the time when he told you that he's married,
yeah,
but that he didn't tell you because he's Muslim and he can marry, I know Muslim men can marry up to 4 wives.
Yeah.
But I'm not clear on how that usually happens. And what I mean is, does that mean that he can have extramarital relationships until he finds another wife, or I don't know. It's not for you to answer. I think I'm just putting this out there. Yeah, I'm just putting this out there because sometimes I think, like now, for me, what that sounds like, it sounds like he's leaning on that to be able to have extramarital relationships. Mm-hmm. Because I would assume that if you're a Muslim, then maybe don't have sex with with the other person you want to marry until you get married. But now, so what happened after the point where he told you that were you now considering marrying him after he told you that
yes,
he can marry? Yeah.
Yes, I did. But my gut was like, no. Are you marrying this man for the convenience now of marriage and being like, oh yeah, I'm married? Or And you want to be number 2. And I remember waking up at night crying, Jules, crying tears, and not kidogo tears, like hyperventilating and having anxiety attacks and sitting on the floor because it just didn't seem right. And I remember after taking some time to think about it, and I went for therapy and all whatnot, and I spoke to a few friends. That's when I was like, we now need to have the talk. And I can't do this anymore. I'm not happy. If anything, I'm more sad than before I met you. I'm not happy. I know what you're capable of. And right now you're giving me seconds. You're giving me the scraps. And I can tell there's someone else. So let me leave.
Do you think if he was able to maintain the attention he was giving you while still pursuing other romantic relationships, that you'd have been okay with it?
No. I'd have known. Yes. I'd have known that there was someone else. And but now here's the thing, I'd have kept quiet a bit longer. I wouldn't have acted as soon as I did. He now opens up about having a conversation with his relatives also about marrying a second wife. And his uncles gave him the advice that they could give him, and which was, if you marry a second wife, you have to, the things you have to do in our religion. And are you ready for that? He didn't tell me what exactly. I didn't care to know. Sorry if I seem ignorant, but it's just the truth. And he told me that his wife told him, the day you decide you're going to marry this woman, like you're sure for sure, I'm going to leave you and I'm going to take the children with me. And I was like, snap. And that's what I did. And during this time when I'm drinking all this, that's when Curtis and I are now meeting to have a conjugal relationship. So he's the guy that I got under
to get over. But he was the same person.
Yeah. So this time for me, but then it was like, this is what you left me for. Mm-hmm. So now have it. Have it.
Do you think you were abusing alcohol during this time?
Oh, yeah.
And even prior?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because when I met him, I didn't used to drink as much as I eventually did. Mm-hmm. And he was also an alcoholic. He was a Muslim who drank. That math was not mathing, I don't know why I didn't notice all those red flags. But eventually I understood why. And when I look back now, I'm okay. I wouldn't say hi to him on the road, but I'll be like, that guy helped me realize a few things. I chose the initial stages of our relationship to help me heal from underlying issues. Let me take you a step back, kidogo. I thought this also him giving me money was love. I don't come from a very bad background. If anything, it's better than what most people have. But there was no reassurance. There was no love. There was... So you see why I held on. This guy is being vocal. He's telling me he loves me. He's kissing me on my forehead. And this guy was affirming me. These are things I had never had. Mm-hmm. These are things I had never experienced. And I was 27. So I was like, damn, me, nimekafunga. Like, I'm the luckiest bitch on earth right now. Sorry to refer to myself as one, but hey. So that's why I held on. Because I was like, if I let go, will I ever feel this again? Will I ever find a man who's going to do this for me? But through the breakup and through the healing, I learned, kumbe, this thing can come from within. If someone asked me what my ex taught me, I'll say he loved me and he loved my broken pieces until I learned how to love myself again. And that's why I can never get mad at him. When I realized, when after going through the whole drinking phase and the smoking phase and, getting under him to get over him and everything, the whole self-sabotaged kind of thing, I sat down and had an honest conversation with my best friend. And I was like, I'm not okay. I'm done drinking. This time that we spent on lockdown has really taught me a lot about myself. So I moved back home and I had an honest conversation with my brother. And I told him I'm checking myself into rehab. And in rehab, I healed. I healed from my childhood trauma. I healed from things I had allowed myself to go through because I thought they were the right thing. And I healed from this relationship. And now love and everything I'd ever wanted started coming from within me. And girl, man, when they talk of self-love, I don't think we speak of it enough. I don't think we do. When I came back, I did call him. And we did have an honest conversation.
This is when you came back from rehab?
Yes. I did call him. And we had an honest conversation about it. And we sat down and we also had coffee. And we still went back to our Westlands Square Java. And he was like, I'm also sorry that I did what I did to you. You deserved better. But I was also going through my own things. I also went and got help. And we had an amicable breakup. I met his new girlfriend. And I was like, be ready. I can't tell you to be ready for the best or the worst, but just be ready.
How does love coming from within show up in your life?
Okay. I realized that the people around me or the people that brought me up also didn't know what love was. First of all, I had to forgive them. And it was a painful process. And this is not something I read in a book. Like, it's something I felt. So I forgave them.
Mm-hmm.
But I also thanked them.
How does it look like in your life where you'd be like, oh, this is a self-love moment?
Honestly, when I make myself a cup of tea, that's a big deal. You know, when I choose to dress up and take myself on a date, when I choose to not answer the call on a Friday night and just stay at home, when I choose who to associate with, when, you know, those small but very significant things. I've had to turn down job offers because I've done my research about a certain institution and how they do their things. Yeah, I have had to walk out of family, relative relationships because it's me. And yeah.
What would you say from your relationship with Curtis? Mm-hmm. What would you say? How would you say you contributed to the breakdown of that relationship?
I enabled the red flags. I turned a blind eye and I didn't call him out because I didn't want to lose this man that loved me. Yes.
And now I feel like we've even already touched on this a little bit, but what would you say are your takeaways from this relationship with Curtis? Mm-hmm. And how do you apply that in your current relationships or future relationships and or personal development?
I have learned that I should not be ashamed to ask for what I deserve. I have learned honestly not to turn a blind eye to anything. I know that makes me an overthinker and extremely analytical, which is kind of good and kind of bad in its own sense. But for me, it's the best way that I can safeguard my interest, but not in a selfish manner. Because if I enable a bad behavior, or if I enable something wrong that doesn't sit well with me, Jules is gonna be like, yeah, okay, so I did this and she was okay with it, even as my friend, you know. So if it keeps happening, how will I tell you that what you're doing is wrong when you did it the first time and I didn't complain or I didn't say anything? I have learned to take more time to get to know people. Oh yeah, I'm asking the tough questions. Oh yes, I am. And for me, it's not intrusion because I really do take time to think about what I'm asking you. But yeah, I'm asking questions this time round, and I decided before I start dating or before I meet someone, I'm going to practice everything that I have established as my standards and my boundaries with my friends. And that is how I think I came from having a pool of so many people that I associate with to having 5 girlfriends. They're like my girlfriends. I have those. And my girlfriends also do the same thing that I do for them. They're like, why? Why are you talking to so and so? And you guys don't align in certain ways. Loving on my friends has taught me how to even love on me more. It has left me in a position where I'm open to start dating again and taking quite some time in the talking phase.
So I think you've actually answered my final question. I was going to ask you, where are you now? And not just relationship-wise, but holistically.
Okay.
Where are you in terms of, how's your heart? How's your relationship with alcohol? And where are you now in other areas of your life?
Okay. My relationships in general are good. Oh, they're very good. Like, I think you can see how my face says it all. My relationship with alcohol is very good. I'll say that. I talk to it. It doesn't talk to me. And because I'm also a mixologist, so I have to be careful in that sense. I don't associate with people who consume as much alcohol as I used to. And career-wise, I'm okay. I'm getting there. I'm figuring a few things out. Spiritually, I'm woke, and I'm seeing someone. He's the best thing that's happened to me after me loving myself and my friends. Yes, he's my friend.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Shelly, for sharing that amazing story with us.
You're welcome.
I feel like I've picked up something there, especially around the area of self-love. I think self-love is it's a buzzword right now, but it has a lot of ambiguity around it. So I always like to ask people, okay, how does self-love show up in your life? How, what is the action there? Like, is it waking up and not rushing to your phone so that you don't clutter your brain in the morning? Is it journaling? Is it saying no to plans on Friday night so that you can be fresh on Saturday for a family function and not showing up hungover? So I really do appreciate you for coming here and being vulnerable enough to share that very intimate story with us. I think somebody out there can relate to it. Guys, if you've enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it and leave a review. If you would like to be a part of this podcast, you can leave me a message on my Instagram at So This Is Love Podcast. And we can pick it up from there. I'm looking for stories from people from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of sexual orientations, all sorts of types of marriage, like you've divorced. I'm also looking for people who are not only the victims, but maybe there's somebody who is the perpetrator. Like, you want to come and share a story where you're like, listen, I did this to this person and this is what I've learned out of it. I'll see you guys back here next time. Thank you for listening. If you have liked this episode, please subscribe to this podcast and leave us a review. You can also share this podcast with a friend or two and follow us on our Instagram at SoThisIsLove_podcast. If you would like to be a part of this podcast, you can also reach us via direct message on our Instagram. This is Jules. See you next time.